All right, we're back with the 12 tables. The 12 tables written about 450 BCE, providing political and social rights for the plebeians. This was the biggest breakthrough for the plebeians. The laws were written down and set up in the marketplace. And so, one of the things that we get from this is innocent until proven guilty. So, this is a big breakthrough because prior to this, the laws, if the laws aren't written, then how do the people really know what laws that they're breaking? So, this is really going to help out the plebeians a lot, the 12 tables. The Roman Forum, this is the main gathering place in Rome. A lot of political discussion would take place and things of that nature. So, you can kind of relate this when you're thinking about Greece to the Acropolis and the Agora. Rome's early road system. There's a saying, all roads lead to Rome. The Romans were not the first people to build roads, but they were excellent road builders. And this is going to be great for trade. This is going to encourage growth in Rome. The most famous road, the Appian Way, Appia. And so you can see the type of material that the road was made out of. Very advanced for its time period. But don't forget the Persians also had roads that the Greeks found very impressive. So the Romans, not the first road builders, but nonetheless very good at it. Hadrian's Wall, this is up in Great Britain. It's kind of the boundary line that marked the furthest north territory that the Romans had up in Great Britain. And so the barbarians would be on the other side of the wall. Emperor Hadrian had it built, and it was to protect them from attacks, from the north. Roman aqueducts, fantastic. As you're seeing that the Romans had a lot of amazing things that they built, I guess for lack of a better term. And the Roman aqueducts are one of them, governmental projects, you could call them. And so the Roman aqueducts are built by Rome, and they are used to transport water through the empire. And so this is going to lead us to see that they have a very strong centralized government, one that's capable of conducting a lot of these projects. This is the Roman Colosseum. This was built for entertainment. The Romans are considered pleasure-seeking at different times during their existence, and the Colosseum is definitely one of these. So the Colosseum was not just a place where they would do gladiator battles, but the Colosseum was also a place where they would do shows, they would reenact naval battles. You could actually flood the Colosseum with water and have boats that would float around in the Colosseum. So the Colosseum, it's a great engineering feat. There's the interior of the Colosseum. You can see the floor underneath of it had a lot of trapdoors and different passageways and things like that. They would keep slaves down there that would fight animals down there, just all kinds of things. It's very complex. All right, the Pantheon. The Pantheon is the Pantheon is a temple built for the Roman gods. And one of the neatest things to recognize about this is the cross section of the Pantheon. So you can see that the Romans were working with the dome. And so this is in a very advanced building technique for the time. I'm just looking here at my notes, and I've got, before we get to the Punic Wars, if you go back to Hadrian's Wall and you look at the way that the Romans were able to expand, what enabled them to expand so much? And some reasons I have, number one, the Romans were fans of war. This was something that the people got excited about, was going to battle, wanting to take new land. They wanted glory. These councils did specifically. The councils, remember, the councils are only in power for about a year. And so when these men from the Senate are elected to the council, they want to gain glory. And so one of the things that they're going to do is they're going to try to they're going to try to take as much land as they can to gain glory. There was also a desire for the Romans to want to create a buffer zone between them and their enemies. And the Romans had a large army, and so they just kind of needed something to do. So all of these things combined made sense for them to want to grow their territory. The Romans extended citizenship to conquered people. If you became conquered by the Romans, you were made a citizen. All right, just wanted to make sure I mentioned that. Circus Maximus, another thing that was for entertainment. Chariot racing is specifically what this was. And so the Romans are very much into entertainment. All right, Carthaginian Empire. So we talked about Carthage a little bit earlier in class, and we talked about how the Carthaginians were not very concerned on having a large land-based empire. They wanted trade ports. So when the Romans begin to grow and engage in trade, we're going to see them come into conflict with the Carthaginians. And really this conflict is going to be for control of the Mediterranean. And so, let me go back. All right. Well, looking at this, these three Punic Wars. So the wars between the Romans and the Carthaginians are called the Punic Wars. The first war, Rome defeated Carthage, and they are going to win the islands of Sicily, Corsica, and Sardinia. I don't know if there's a way, I'm not sure if this pointer is showing up on your screen or not, but Sicily, Sardinia, and Corsica are here, and so that is the land that they're going to take. All right, in the Second Punic War, Hannibal comes up with a plan where he wants to attack the Romans, and he's not going to attack it by boat going across the Mediterranean. What he's going to do is he's going to land in Spain, and he's going to march his forces through the Alps and down into Rome, and his plan is to take Rome. And so he wants to take them by surprise. He's marching for 15 years. That's how long this takes. It takes 15 years for him to march through the Alps down into Italy. And he won battle after battle. However, he was unsuccessful in ever capturing Rome. Now, Rome went to attack Carthage because Hannibal left his homeland undefended, and so when he went to Italy. So the Romans saw this as an opportunity to go attack Carthage, and they did. And then in the Third Punic War, Rome completely destroys Carthage. And the story is that they poured salt all over the land so that the Carthaginians could never grow any crops ever again. All right, reform leaders, Tiberius and Gaius Gracchus. The reform leaders did great things, but the Senate feared their popularity, and so most of these guys were killed. So these reform leaders, the poor should be given grain and small plots of free land. Gaius Marius recruited an army from the poor and the homeless. He had a professional standing army, so it wasn't just farmers fighting anymore. We have soldiers that were going to pay full time. So anytime reform leaders come along, sometimes they can run into some problems. The First Triumvirate. A triumvirate is a group of three people leading together. Usually they're military leaders, and in this case it is Julius Caesar, Marcus Licinius Crassus, and Gaius Magnus Pompey. Caesar defeats Gaul, and he's gaining in popularity. Julius Caesar is. Pompey had the Senate order him to disband his military force. Julius Caesar refused, and he swept across the Rubicon River, and he met Pompey and fought him in a battle, and Julius Caesar's forces defeated Pompey's forces. So when Julius Caesar does this, what he's doing is he's showing everyone in Rome, everyone in the Mediterranean really, that he is the absolute ruler of Rome, that he is going to be the one who calls the shots. And later he's assassinated by the senators. Brutus is one of them. who was one of his close friends. They feared that he was gaining too much power. As a military leader, he had great popularity and a lot of strength due to being a military leader. So he was assassinated. He was stabbed 23 times in the Senate. And this is the main reason for the decline of the Roman Republic as we know it. We're going to move into a time period called the Roman Empire. But this is really the decline of the Roman Republic because the military leaders are gaining so much popularity that this is going to lead them to have a lot of power and to think that maybe we can get away with more than we had been able to in the past, just due to the strength that we have for controlling the military. So there's some civil wars that go on. So you've got Pompey vying for power, Julius Caesar. We talked about how this is the crossing of the Rubicon in 49 BCE. In 44 BCE, Julius Caesar is executed on March 15th. Beware of the Ides of March. All right, so the Second Triumvirate. So Julius Caesar is executed or murdered. And so Octavian, Augustus, Mark Antony, and Marcus Lepidus are going to form the Second Triumvirate. And this arose mainly Octavian Augustus, who is Caesar's grandnephew, and Mark Antony, who was one of Caesar's generals. These two guys are going to rise to the top. Excuse me. They're going to fight for control over Rome, and Octavian Augustus is going to win. Mark Antony is going to flee to Egypt. He's going to form an alliance with Cleopatra. We believe that Cleopatra was exercising some political strength there to try to gain control of Rome. So Octavian Augustus and Mark Antony fight. Octavian Augustus comes out on top. The Senate is going to give Octavian the title of Augustus, which really means exalted one. Now, he was very careful not to call himself a king because the Romans had never wanted to do that because the Etruscans had kings, and there was a lot of bad blood there. And so this is going to usher in a time period. Well, the Roman Empire is going to last from 27 BCE to 476 CE. But this is going to usher in a time period called Pax Romana, or Roman peace. And so you can see there an image of Octavian Augustus, Rome's first emperor, and Pax Romana, Roman peace. So in the next video, we will talk about this Roman peace.